And eventually there'll be AI comedy.
No.
You're not immune from it.
No.
Okay. I love when you
No
say
way.
stuff like this.
No way.
Okay.
No way.
They've made, so far, this has already happened.
Yeah.
They've made
Yeah.
sort of software that can write papers.
You
that
might
get
replace
submitted.
the Mexicans that are making the kitchens, but you're not going to replace the comedians. Not going to happen.
So you think that machine learning will never be capable of understanding humor?
Yes, correct.
I think not only will it be capable
Because it doesn't understand anything. It doesn't understand. Machine learning doesn't understand. They've done that experiment. What is it called?
Right.
The
Turing test?
Yeah, it's equivalent to the Turing test,
Right.
but it's called the something in the box.
Right.
What is it called?
Well, I don't think the question is whether it understands. The question is whether it
Do you
can
know what I'm
replicate.
referencing? The study that they made where they does that person speak English? You're asking them questions. They have Chinese. They use Chinese characters, and the person in the room had like responses to those Chinese characters, but they don't really understand Chinese in the room.
Right.
They just know how to respond.
Right.
So I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think a computer will ever understand humor. I just think it will know what is the right thing to say in that moment.
Yes.
And then the question is understanding important?
I don't think so.
If you make me laugh, it doesn't
Right.
matter whether you understand it's funny or not. It's going to make me laugh.
Right.
So understand, I disagree. The ability to make people laugh, maybe. I mean, there's certain things that are just not formulaically funny. Like there's certain things you just cannot reproduce. Like you can't make Chris Farley. Like there's no AI that can be Chris Farley. There's no AI that can just say things funny, can just be funny, exude funny. I bet you AI could write like one-liner jokes. Like, oh, you didn't see that coming. Here's like a bait and switch. But I don't think that they can be funny.
See, I think the thing that you're thinking that it can't predict new things. Like Chris Farley was a new thing. Sure, he had references and stuff like that. There's a little bit of like Belushi in him. There's a few other things, but it was his own version that was perfect for that particular moment in time. So what AI can't do is sort of predict what people will like because it's pulling from previous information. But what it can do is it can iterate infinitely, whereas an individual can only iterate within a few concepts of time.
What I would say is, yes, 100% right. But what Farley did, let's say it was unique or not unique, it was personality driven.
Right.
And I don't think AI will have enough personality to be funny off of personality. We've all had friends like our boy Mike.
Right.
Mike is funny.
Mike from Modern Builds.
Mike from Modern Builds. Shout out to Mike from Modern Builds. We love Mike. Tippy toe Mike. And Mike is so funny, but Mike might not say a joke that's funny. He will just exist as funny. He will just be funny. How do you replicate that with AI? You cannot.
So you can create that with AI. You can do it through brute force. Now, the question would be whether or not AI could ever make a popular comedian. AI could simulate comedy, but they might have to simulate so many versions to get it right that creates an unwieldy burden that someone would have to curate to figure out what's actually going to pop. So I think it's possible in the creation. I'm not sure that creation aspect, because an AI can create things simultaneously at the same time.
Yeah.
So with like the kitchen design, as an architect and designer, I can only do one design at a time. The software can do every design at the same time.
Yeah.
Now the question is, too many designs is actually not useful to the consumer. So it could write every single possible joke, but what it might not be able to do is then surface the most probable ones. So it's not the generative things that are impossible. It's like it generates so much that it creates this infinite mess that can't be navigated to actually surface the things that are going to work to an audience.
Sure. So it could generate like 1,000 different possibilities, and you have to work through 1,000 different ones to find the one, and it wouldn't know which one it is because it doesn't feel. And it doesn't understand what we feel. Like, so much of comedy is like this feeling that we have that we know is wrong, but is relatable. So and how does an AI develop a feeling that they know is right, or they don't understand right or wrong, and they don't understand relatability? They just develop the different kitchens.
It would be if they could make a audience AI that then interfaces with the comedian AI. And if they studied enough audience members and been like, oh, these people laugh at this. And if they could create enough thing where then that audience could do an infinite number of sets, then you have accelerated evolution, and that's where you're really in trouble.
I think that could create a woke comedian. Like that could create like a Williamsburg comic book store comedian. Like I'm gonna tell. That's really what that type of comedy is. I think that's why I hate it so much. Is that I'm just gonna tell people the thing that they want to hear, and I'm gonna be clever about it instead of telling people the thing that they feel that they might not even want to feel, but we all feel and we relate to, and then making that fun.
Why does that bother you so much, though? Like, I've heard you sort of talk, it just annoys you, but you're not like an unprogressive person. You're like a kind and thoughtful person to the people that are sort of in your life, but you're so offended in a visceral way.
I'm not progressive in my comedy.
Yeah.
I don't believe in progressive
Is it the
comedy.
performative part that just kind of irks you?
Yeah.
It's mixing that in with something that's supposed to be for this other thing.
Yeah, you're taking advantage of it.
It's kind of like food is art, like kind of a thing. Like, oh, here's this delicious sea foam.
Yeah.
It's like,
though because I'm so devoid from like making food, I'm like so removed from it that I can appreciate that. Like I can watch, what is that restaurant in Chicago that they did?
Linea or
Yeah. Like most, I imagine foodies would look at that and be like, why are you making bubbles out of food? Like, get over it. But I'm such a chimp. I'm just like, bubble food? It floats? Cool. Let's go, babe. So if I just love comedy and I love the authenticity in comedy, and obviously all the people that I care about within comedy are super authentic, and I try to be authentic. So when I see it done in a fraudulent way, I just don't relate to it as much.
Yeah, but you're
It's hack architecture.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Somebody making this architecture that you know is like super hack, and you probably look at it, you'd be like, this is easy, this is hack, I know what you're fucking doing here.
Yeah.
And imagine they presented it as if it was the most exquisite, beautiful art you've ever seen in your life.
So for me, the thing that I think sustainability is really important, but the thing that would always irk me is when people be like, I put solar panels on this house and it's now sustainable. And it's like, look, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. Solar panels are awesome technology. It's really cool to own your energy source.
Yeah.
It's a way to like take money that was going to a utility bill and increase the value of your home, and you actually own your own means of production. That's awesome. But it's like, it's so additive. It's not like artistic. It's not necessarily integrated. It's not thoughtful. It's just like, it's additive brownie points in the sort of sustainability arena, and it's not necessarily good integrated design.
So as a designer, you're like, I don't like the aesthetic.
Yeah.
But as someone who cares about the environment, you're like, all right, that's cool. You're trying to do something.
Yeah, it's easy to add something that's like a badge of goodness, right?
It's
like,
virtue signaling. Is that your issue?
It's the same thing with like, it's the same thing with like, and I think virtue is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
But the signal part could actually be signaling real virtue.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with virtue signaling. I have a problem with disproportionate signaling and a small amount of virtue. If the virtue is huge and the signal's small, good job. If the signal's fucking huge and the virtue is like just slightly above the bare minimum, you're not doing much.
You're taking the easy way out for the highest reward.
Right.
And that is my issue with that type of comedy. We both know it's funny. Not you and I. I'm saying like comedians. We all know it's funny. If you're a funny person, you know it's funny. If you're not a funny person, you probably know it's funny. We all know the easiest way out. We all know what will succeed. You know, if I'm opening up a restaurant, I know the thing that's going to sell.
Right.
But if I'm going to try to push it, if I'm going to try to get you to eat a parsnip and I'm going to put extra love and care into that fucking parsnip and make it so good you actually order a parsnip, I go to that chef, I'm like, bro, I can't believe you made me order a vegetable like it was a steak. You are nice with it. But the guy who's just like, here's fucking, what is it? What is the most common thing right now? Here's duck fat French fries or something like that.
Right.
Like, you're not being unique with your duck fat French fries.
Right. You're playing the hits.
You're playing the hits.
Yeah, you're karaoke.
Exactly. There you go. You had a hot take about Seaspiracy that I refused to let you tell me. You said that there were some flaws in Seaspiracy. We're obviously talking about the Netflix documentary about how we got to stop eating fish. Ben is half Japanese, so he's mostly made out of fish. And you thought that the documentary had a lot of good things because you're someone who cares about sustainability. But you thought there were some holes.
So it's so funny that documentaries I think they've taken on almost too much importance for sort of information gathering, because what I really like about documentaries is that you get a very distinct point of view,
but they're presented as if it is the way it is.
Right. And I think that's the thing. It's not to like look at, with trepidation at documentaries. it's just to consider the way they were made. And what I love about documentaries is the handcrafted approach. Clearly, that was the work of years and years about a very passionate, diligent, hardworking person. And he should be celebrated for that. And I think it's a fantastic piece of content that does way more good than it does harm. But there's limitations because it's when you're produced from a singular vision, you don't have the diversity of sort of fact-checking that you do with more sort of traditional and mainstream journalism.
So what did he get wrong? I'd also like to say that we went out to a delicious sushi restaurant last night. Uchi out here in Miami is amazing. What did he get wrong?
He said that like sustainable fishing is impossible. And I would totally be fine if he switched that to like, it's going to be really, really hard and we should be really skeptical about anyone making claims about the sustainability of a particular fishing initiative.
Yeah.
But I think it's often overstatement is a part of deception that I think is particularly damaging.
Yeah.
Saying that something is impossible is such an arrogant claim. How do you know?
Yeah. Who the fuck are you?
There's so many things that we thought were impossible that later were proved not to be.
Just because you can't figure out how to do it doesn't mean it's impossible.
It's like saying that consumers will never really want electric cars. And it looked that way. It did look highly probable. And people doing like deep research into consumer trends 20 years ago, it would be fair for them to come to that very reasonable conclusion that it's unlikely that electric cars will ever be as desirable, if not more desirable, than gas cars, except for like the most hardcore environmental nuts. That improbability has happened. And when you say, if you said that was impossible, you're 100% wrong. If you said it was improbable, you're mostly right.
Yeah.
So I have a big problem with those kind of overstatements.